So to help us dissect the topic of serving AI, I'm joined by Rob Thomas, who is Senior Vice President, Software, and Chief Commercial Officer for IBM. Rob, thanks for being here.
Great to be here. Look forward to it.
And our host here at Manhatta, Meyer, who is founder and executive chairman, Union Square Hospitality Group, and a number of other venture groups and hospitality groups that we'll talk about as part of this conversation. So welcome, Danny. Thank you for being here.
Welcome to all of you. Great to see you. What if we could know deeply for each and every one of you, when you come to one of our restaurants, what you like to eat? How long do you like to spend? How quickly do you want the meal to go? What your favorite wines are? Do you even drink wine? What if we could actually, some of you may want to apply to work with us when we're done with this. I doubt it, but you're all welcome to. What if we could know more about your qualifications to work for us before you even apply? What if you could know what kind of a fit we're looking for at the same time? So there's really three broad areas. I'll try to finish this so we can get on to Rob here. But if AI can help us to increase our revenue because we can know more about who people are, how they like to spend, and market the right things to the right people, that's incredible. If AI can help us to save money by being much more efficient at what we do, for example, in terms of how we inventory. When I first became a restaurateur, people would ask me all the time, how do you know how much food to order for a Friday night or a Saturday night? AI has all the data based on how you actually perform when you dine out to help us know that. And then finally, as I started off by saying, in addition to increasing revenue and helping us to run our businesses more efficiently, the biggest thing that we look for AI to do is to help us to achieve greater customized hospitality for you.
Rob, IBM recently acquired some technology from McDonald's in the ordering automation space. What attracted IBM to that technology, and what have you been able to do with it since taking it under your wing?
I would start with a core premise for why AI, which is it's really about reducing friction. So think about in the restaurant industry, anything that creates friction. And there's a lot of different levers for that. And we looked at the problem on ordering, and we said this is one of the biggest problems, certainly for quick service restaurants, is ordering. It's not just when you're placing the order, but you need somebody that actually shows up to work on time to take the order. You need it to be accurate, because the minute that it's not accurate, you have massive friction in terms of fixing the inaccuracy. So we got very interested in this technology, but it hadn't quite scaled yet for McDonald's at the time. And the reason was they didn't really have the language understanding to make it truly seamless, to where you could understand different dialects, different accents, obviously different languages. And so combination of IBM technology and what we're doing in AI with Watson X, with, I would say, the base of what McDonald's was doing, we've now been able to deliver some fantastic results. So this is going to start rolling out around the world, but we're seeing automation rates 85, 88%, which is remarkable when you think about ambient noise in an ordering environment. And so it completely takes the friction out of it. You just speak. You can see exactly up on their digital signage what you're getting. You can make any corrections in real time. So we saw this as just one way of, I would say, bringing technology to an industry that had probably been somewhat underserved by technology.
As you correctly said, what automated voice ordering can do is it takes a job which is not really most people's favorite job, wearing a headset, trying to understand what somebody's saying while they're in their car, often in a hurry, right? Because you just want to get through the line. And it can not only know who you are, maybe even see your license plate while you're in line so that we can look at your past order experience. And as you said, make suggestive sales, which a lot of people face-to-face and through the headset don't know how to do, don't enjoy doing. And what if we could take all of the guesswork out of the technical aspect of taking an order, i.e. often making mistakes? Did we not hear correctly? Did we not key it in? What if we could get all that done perfectly, allowing the human beings to actually enhance the hospitality part. We learned early on at Shake Shack when we invested in kiosks for the first time that we didn't save any money really on labor. And we didn't save on we still to this day have reservationists all these years later at all of our restaurants, real human beings answering the telephone. So because we use OpenTable or Resi and now 7 rooms for our reservation platforms, it doesn't save on people as much as it does. It allows the technology part or the technical part of taking an order to happen perfectly, as opposed to a human being doing an okay job with the technology, which actually gets in the way emotionally of just being 100% present for the hospitality. So by taking the guesswork out of the actual technical part of taking your order, it allows us to put 100% of our hearts into making you feel welcome. And that's been the big win.
Rob, when you're building AI tools for a B2C company like Danny's or like McDonald's, is that different than the way you build AI tools for a B2B company?
I don't think the way you build them is different. I think the use cases are at times different. The commonality, I would say, for use cases is I believe every company in the world is going to use generative AI for some type of customer service, which is happening pretty significantly today. You know, we have banks around the world. Bradesco is one of the biggest banks in the world. 200,000 interactions a month using generative AI. It just makes the customer experience way better. And their NPS has gone up 40% since they've done that. So I think every business can really change how you interact with customers, whether it's B2B or B2C, with AI. That's available today. I would say the second one is, I'll call it the back office. Any type of repetitive task, which exists in every restaurant, in every hospitality business, in every business, whether it's bookkeeping, financials, how you manage personnel, all of this can be done much more seamlessly with AI. So I think how you build the technology is the same, but with generative AI, large language models, the 2 most accessible things are customer service and automating any type of repetitive task. And that's available for any business today.
Danny, could you walk us through the restaurant of the future and what an experience for a customer walking in the door might be like with AI deployed more broadly than we have it today, whether it's, you know, from the point of reservation or what's happening in the kitchen? Help us paint a picture for us of what the future would look like.
Well, I love what Rob said earlier about thinking about pain points, and I think any great technology should exist to try to mitigate the pain points. So the first pain point, I think, starts before you even think about coming to one of our restaurants, and that's who's thinking about working in one of our restaurants and what is their employee experience like at the restaurant. That's why one of our investments is a company called 7 Shifts. I know we have 7 rooms for reservations. We have 7 shifts for our talent and labor. And that has really helped us to schedule people much, much more efficiently. I remember the old days in the restaurant business. You'd have to find the one person who was best at doing puzzles to actually figure out how to schedule your servers and your cooks for the various shifts. And right now, what we can actually predict based on history, day of the year, weather reports, even traffic reports, real-time traffic reports, how you should be scheduling people to work in the restaurant. We can also communicate with the people who work in our restaurants on a minute-to-minute basis, making them feel much more comfortable. So even before you go to the restaurant, what matters to me is how does it feel to work there? Because you're going to feel that human energy when you walk in. Now, when you get to the restaurant, or actually even before you get to the restaurant, what if we can take some of the friction out of what it's like to make the reservation in the first place? And so a company like 7 Shifts is actually helping us to maximize our reservation books. How many times have you gone to a restaurant where you took, 5 weeks just to get the damn reservation, and we can't take you, we finally got you off the wait list, and you get to the restaurant and half the seats are empty, and you go, what kind of a game was this? Well, a lot of that is not really a game. It's because the restaurant didn't know accurately how to predict how much time all the people before you were going to spend sitting at the table. So now we have that information, and we can be much more efficient, gives us more revenue. It also means you're going to probably be seated in a much better time frame, and you're not going to have that awful frustration and the friction of making the reservation. Now let's take the next friction. You want to be recognized when you go to a restaurant. If you've been to the restaurant 3 times and the person greeting you looks like you're from Mars and you're a complete stranger, that doesn't feel very good. But what if the person can welcome you back by your name and make you know that we expected you? And then what if we can furthermore customize the experience? Here's another example. I'll never forget that 3 days a year when we get the massive dumping of snow in New York City. And first of all, we have to figure out how can we get people to work, because sometimes the subways don't work so well, but then we have to cajole you into saying, why in the world would you want to leave your apartment to come dine with us? So we came up with this great idea a few years ago, except it wasn't so great. We called it snow corkage. You get it? You can bring wine from your own cellar, save all the money. Because it's snowing, we will not have a corkage fee. And so we came up with a brilliant idea of sending that out to 100% of everyone on our mailing list, including the 22% who don't go near alcohol, which was deeply offensive to them at best. Irrelevant at best, deeply offensive at worst. But now, the only people that are going to get that mailing from us, and they will get the mailing, are people who have a history of ordering wine and loving wine. So we can double down on the right kind of segmentation and omit the kind that's irrelevant. Here's another pain point. How about getting your coat in a restaurant? How much fun is that? Not. What if we could know in advance where your coat is, as opposed to the coat checks, which everybody loses, like that second pair of socks that somehow is, no one knows what happens to their coat check after they put it in their pocket. But what if we could actually use technology to predict when your meal's going to be done, get your coat ready so that it's ready for you as opposed to you needing to search and find it. But there's just a myriad of ways, and we look at every single one of them as an opportunity. And here's the final one that we think about all the time. And I believe we're on the cusp of this, and that is get up and go payment opportunity, which is the same thing that we all know from ride sharing these days. One of my favorite things about ride sharing is I don't have to tell the person how to get there because they have all that down. But one of the other great things is I don't have to take out my credit card, or I don't have to enter anything, because it's already, as soon as I leave the car, I'm going to get charged for that. We should be able to do that in the restaurant business as well, because the biggest pain point I think people find is anything that takes up extra time. And we can't be mind readers. We don't know whether you're done or not. We have that awful expression, are we still working on that, which I hate in restaurants. But wouldn't it be great if when you're done not working on it, but when you're just done with your meal, you can just leave whenever you want to? That's something that I'm really excited about.
Danny, you mentioned influence from other technologies working their way into the hospitality industry. What are some things about the way that the hospitality industry has deployed technology that you think the people who are in this room who are not in the hospitality business can learn from what you've done?
Well, we all have, I think any business in the world has the exact same 5 stakeholders. You've got people who work for you, unless you're a team of 1, good for you, must be nice. You have customers. You have a community in which you do business, you have suppliers, and you have investors. And so I just don't know of any business that wouldn't rather make its stakeholders feel seen, appreciated, and understood, and customize the experience. Because at the end of the day, business is hard for everybody. It's a big set of problems to solve. And wouldn't it be easier if all of your stakeholders were rooting for your success? And I think that any technology that helps us show our stakeholders that we're on their side, starting with our own employees, is good for any of our businesses. Food is what we serve, but hospitality is why you come here. I've never met one person who would spend the kind of money it takes to eat at this restaurant just because they're hungry. You're coming for an experience, and that experience is hospitality.
Rob, final question for you. What have you learned from the automated ordering process and from the work that you're doing for the hospitality industry that you think you'll apply to other customers that you serve with AI at IBM?
Well, I think Danny's the gold standard on hospitality, so what I've learned is probably not relevant in this room. If you haven't read his book, Setting the Table, it's an incredible book on hospitality and experience. I would say my biggest takeaway from doing the order taking and really this whole discussion is there is an impression that when we talk about AI, that's not relevant to smaller businesses. I hear that a lot. And I was with the CEO of Sport Clips recently, who has aggressively adopted AI. Sport Clips is like the franchise haircutting company. This is not a multi-billion-dollar company. But they said, we can really optimize how we do hiring. That's the biggest challenge in their business. There's a lot of turnover. I think that's relevant to anybody in hospitality. So I would just encourage everybody in the room, don't think this isn't for me, because this is just for big companies. I think technology is more accessible than it's ever been. And if McDonald's franchisees can do this, and Sport Clips can do this, and a lot of the small businesses that we work with, companies like Ancestry as an example, anybody can take advantage of this in their business.